But the real Cleopatra, shown on ancient coins and statues, was remarkable more for her political maneuvers than for her looks. Like her predecessors, Cleopatra was Greek, not Egyptian. Her city was twice the size of Athens and filled with hundreds of palaces, temples, and the greatest library of the ancient world. Almost all the ancient monuments have been destroyed, wiped out by centuries of war, fire, and devastating earthquakes, like those that toppled the lighthouse. The search for this lost wonder will be Jean-Yves' biggest challenge. His team's first task is to create a map of the underwater site. Each block is cleaned, carefully measured, and drawn in detail. To determine the exact position of the blocks, the archaeologists in the water must coordinate with surveyors on the shore.
92.20.
The goal is to create a plan of the entire site, accurate to a single centimeter. At the end of each day, the drawings are delivered to project headquarters downtown.
D'accord. Donc c'est précis.
Block by block, the data is entered into an enormous computerized file. After 4 weeks, the team has surveyed about a quarter of the site and recorded over 500 blocks. The archaeologists hope that the completed map will help answer their most pressing question. Where did all these ancient blocks come from? Some historians doubt that the blocks are from the lighthouse at all. They believe that the stones were dumped into the water during the Middle Ages in an effort to blockade the harbor from invading crusaders. Others think that the underwater ruins are from a different ancient monument, perhaps a temple that gradually sank beneath the waves. But Jean-Yves believes that among the rubble may lie pieces of the lighthouse itself that fell into the sea when the enormous tower collapsed. Before he can prove it, Jean-Yves must first track down all available clues to the size, shape, and decoration of the mysterious building. Dozens of ancient Greek, Roman, and Arab writers proclaimed the wonders of the lighthouse. Unfortunately, their descriptions are lacking in specifics.
The ancient sources speak many times about the lighthouse itself, but they don't give many details on these buildings. They give only an impression They say that it was impressive for the Greek people or after for the Roman and even for the Arabs.
The lighthouse was so impressive, it became the symbol of Alexandria, appearing on coins, jars, and souvenirs of the city. Built around 290 BC, it was called the Pharos, named for the small island on which it stood. It was said that the huge tower soared to a height of over 300 feet, second only to the Great Pyramid of Giza. At its top, a blazing fire, magnified by a gigantic mirror, guided ships from 70 miles out at sea. After its collapse in the 14th century, depictions of the Pharos became less reliable as artists created more romanticized and bizarre images of the seventh wonder. The real lighthouse was probably a much simpler construction. Perhaps the best clue to the shape of the tower is this ancient funeral monument, which stands about 25 miles from Alexandria. It's constructed in 3 stages. A square base supports an 8-sided tower with a round section at the top. This 65-foot structure is believed to be a scaled-down replica of the famous lighthouse. In the early 20th century, the German archaeologist Hermann Tirsch presented his version of the full-sized Pharos. Roughly shaped like the funeral monument, his imposing tower had over 30 stories and 300 rooms. It's this image of the lighthouse that appears in the history books and in the movies. But this Hollywood set from Caesar and Cleopatra, starring Vivien Leigh, is based on little more than speculation. To draw a more reliable picture, the team has to find pieces of the lighthouse itself. The pressure is on as they prepare for the next major phase of the investigation.
Serre les bras, ok? Voilà. Tire là-bas.
Having mapped only the top layer of blocks, the divers now have to dig deeper and expose what lies below. This will require some complicated and highly dangerous underwater maneuvers. Each block must be carefully lifted with parachute-shaped balloons. After securing the balloon to the block, the divers slowly release compressed air into the parachute.
The balloon can lift up 2 tons, 3 tons, 20 tons. Of course, it's not without danger. Suddenly, a change in the air of the balloon, and so the stone would collapse again in the bottom of the sea. It could be very dangerous for the divers. They have to have a lot of experience and to be very careful. It's a very critical moment when the stone goes up slowly and more quickly to the surface.
As the divers begin to peel back the top layer of blocks, they're on the lookout for stones that can be linked to the lighthouse. According to ancient accounts, the facade of the tower bore a dedication carved in large Greek letters. But in their search for the inscription, the underwater detectives uncover some very different evidence. At first, it appears to be a headless lion. But Egyptologists recognize the creature's true identity. It's an ancient sphinx that once had the head of a man. The divers immediately start work to free the sphinx with the air-filled balloons. By now, the procedure should be routine. But something goes wrong. The 4-ton statue breaks loose and falls to the ocean floor, barely missing the divers.
The rear part is broken on the left, and it falls down on the back, and we have to move it. But it's now it's okay. But it's less complete than I hoped.
Luckily, neither the divers nor the Sphinx were hurt during the accident. But an entire day has been lost, a day that Jean-Yves can't afford.
On vous attend. Sécurité, deux choses. Vous vous éloignez.
At the evening briefing session, Jean-Yves warns his team to exercise extreme caution with the balloons.
Et ça peut être très dangereux.
Today's mistakes must never be repeated.
Absolument.
The construction of the new breakwater, just a few yards away, makes the diver's job even more dangerous. It's also a constant reminder that they're racing to uncover crucial evidence before it's obliterated by modern concrete. Today, at the bottom of a pile of stones, they find 3 large blocks covered with inscriptions. But it's not Greek lettering. These are Egyptian hieroglyphs. The team decides to move the blocks to a cleared area of the seabed so that the Egyptologists can get a closer look. The tapered shape of this block indicates that it was once part of an obelisk. These massive pillars, carved from a single piece of granite, stood at the entrances of Egypt's great temples. But where did this obelisk come from? Jean-Pierre hopes that the hieroglyphs carved into the stone will give him a clue.
The first inscription we found was almost faded completely because of the shells. Just to read the inscriptions, first you have to clean it.
As he scrapes away the barnacles, the strange signs begin to form words. Golden Horus, great in splendor, powerful arm who attacks hundreds of thousands. It's an ancient incantation carved during the Golden Age of Egypt, 1,000 years before the lighthouse was even built. Jean-Pierre is still translating the hieroglyphs when he's called away to investigate another mysterious discovery. It's a magnificent sphinx, carved out of a block of quartzite. And this time, the head is found nearby. Scraping the shells away from the inscription, Jean-Pierre reveals its original owner. It was the pharaoh Psamtik II, who ruled Egypt in the 6th century BC.
Very beautiful. Très beau.